I grew up in a small neighborhood where everyone knew each other and every afternoon felt the same. Soccer on the street, laughter echoing between houses, and the distant sound of someone's radio. Me, Pedro, Julia, and Caio were inseparable. We met back in elementary school, and it seemed like nothing could ever come between us. We shared secrets, dreams, even punishments. When one got in trouble, the others were right there. I used to think real friendship was forever, but life, in its usual way, loves to prove us wrong. It all started in high school, when I won a school writing contest. I hadn't expected to win and hadn't even wanted to enter. My teacher insisted. The prize was small, a partial scholarship at a private school, but it somehow changed everything. Julia, who had always been the popular one, began acting distant. Pedro stopped laughing at my jokes, and Caio, who had always been like a brother, suddenly avoided sitting next to me. At first I thought I was imagining things, but their silence grew louder and louder. Then the rumors began. They said I'd cheated, that the teacher had helped me because she liked me. At first I laughed, thinking it would blow over. But it didn't. The jokes turned into whispers, the whispers into insults, and one morning I found Thief of Merit written on my locker. It was the worst day of my teenage years. I came home crying, and my mom just hugged me. She said, "Sweetheart, someday this will all make sense." I wanted to believe her, but it felt impossible. I spent the rest of high school mostly alone. I avoided the courtyard, ate quickly, and hid in the library. There I found a kind of refuge. Reading taught me not to let others define me. I turned silence into strength. I studied, I wrote, and years later I got into journalism school. No one really believed in me, but by then I had learned that other people's approval wasn't what kept me standing. In college, I still thought about them sometimes. I'd see pictures of the three of them together on social media and feel a sharp ache, like I'd been erased from my own story. But over time, that ache turned into fuel. I worked as an intern at a small local newspaper, then at an online news outlet, and little by little, people started noticing my work. When my first big article came out, an investigation about corruption in public schools, it went viral. Teachers, parents, and students from all over the country wrote to me. That's when I realized that maybe my voice had always mattered, even when others tried to silence it. Years passed. I had built a name for myself in journalism, with a busy life and endless deadlines. One day, I went back to my old neighborhood to visit my mom, and there they were, Pedro, Julia, and Caio, sitting on the same bench where we used to play as kids. They recognized me right away. At first, I wanted to walk the other way, pretend I hadn't seen them, but something inside me told me to go. Caio was the first to speak. "We were such idiots to you." Julia lowered her head and said, "We believed lies," and lost a real friend. I could have been cold. I could have told them I didn't need their apologies. But instead, I just smiled and said, "Life has a funny way of teaching us, doesn't it? Sometimes we have to lose something to understand its value." We ended up talking for hours, laughing about the past, remembering the games, and I realized that beneath everything, there was still a bit of affection, hidden, but alive. When I left, I felt a kind of peace I hadn't felt in years. I understood that it wasn't about proving I'd been right or showing off success. It was about not letting their bitterness turn me into something like them. A few days later, Julia messaged me saying she'd started writing too, inspired by my journey. And Pedro, now a teacher, asked to use my article in a class discussion. Today, when I think of that lonely girl sitting in the library, I know she wasn't weak. She was just becoming who she was meant to be. The pain she carried turned into strength, and her solitude became direction. I've learned that people can walk away from you, but the path you build afterward is what defines who you are. And if there's one thing life has taught me, it's that time can change people, but truth sooner or later always finds its way to the surface.